Hey guys, what is up? This is Philbo, and we are looking at the Thorn Storm Arrow build. This build is going to use Lightning Arrow and will be activating to Thorn Explosion. Guys, this build does everything. It clears mobs very, very quickly, and it does a massive amount of single target damage. Thorn Explosion is about the hardest hitting skill in the entire game, so that will be putting massive amounts of damage on bosses and elites. And then Lightning Arrow, while it does a fantastic job of clearing, it also does really good damage as well. Not only that, this build has a means to apply the shock debuff, which is going to increase damage to enemies affected by it by 20%. So if you're looking for a really solid build that does everything phenomenally, this is the build for you. So let's go ahead and jump right into the details. All right, guys, so Lightning Arrow, you are going to be shooting a bunch of lightning arrows parallel to each other, and you will start off with 5 projectiles, but end up with 7. So you won't even need to put a multi-shot link rune on this. It already has plenty of projectiles by default. We are then going to have a 25% chance to charge 1 lightning energy on hit. As we get lightning energies, we will get an additional 4% damage amplification and 4.2% attack speed per lightning energy. By default, you can get up to 5 maximum stacks of lightning energy, but there are ways in the game to increase the lightning energy further. I'll show the easiest way that you can get an extra lightning energy, but for a more detailed look into it, go ahead and check my guide out on energies. It's super helpful and I recommend it. So one more thing I got to point out here is that since we have this chance to charge lightning energies in Lightning Arrow, we are going to get the ability to shock the enemy and bind the enemy as well. Why is that? As we increase our lightning energies, and again, you can get it up to a fixed max of 5 lightning energies by default. There are other ways that we can build it, but as we stack this up, we are going to get status effect rate plus 6 per stack. If we don't increase the maxed fixed lightning energy at all, we can get up to 30 status effect rate. That 30 status effect rate is going to give us a very high chance to shock the enemy and to apply bind. That's important because shock is going to increase damage taken by 20%. It is massive. So not only is our lightning arrow going to be able to apply that shock and bind, but our thorn explosion will as well, because the status effect apply to all damage we do. So lightning damage from lightning arrow has a chance to apply those status effects, and the lightning damage from thorn explosion does as well. Moving on, as we bring this up to the legendary, we will get lightning damage amplification, and the extra 2 projectiles. As we look at the awakenings, I think there are 2 awakenings that are really good. Origin is going to give you lightning penetration and lightning damage, and I think that if you want damage, this is the one to go for. However, you will not be able to use the lightning penetration link rune. The other option here, and the one that I think is a better value, is going to be Verity. You will gain a lightning barrier for 10 seconds upon skill use, and you're going to have a chance to charge 1 lightning energy upon being hit while under the lightning barrier. Now, that part is not such a big deal because we are able to build lightning energy by attacking with lightning arrow already, so that's not that impactful. However, this damage taken dampening for every lightning energy while under lightning barrier up to a maximum of 25% is what we're after. This right here is going to give you so much damage dampening that I think Verity just offers a higher value than Origin. Now, I know we all love damage, but you can't do any damage when you're dead. So Verity is going to give us a big boost to our defense, and I think that if you are a newer player, this one right here is the one I would definitely go for. Even a lot of the top players in the game who are running Lightning Arrow are using Verity. As we fire our Lightning Arrow, we will activate Thorn Explosion, which is going to create an area of thorns that attack and then finish off with 1 really strong thorn. So there is a bleed chance on Thorn Explosion. We will be removing this though because we are going to convert to lightning. No worries though, the bleed damage is not a significant amount of damage. The Thorn Explosion is going to start off with a first thorn attack, and every 0.3 seconds, small thorns will erupt from the ground, damaging 3 times, and then that will follow up with that large thorn we talked about earlier, the second thorn attack. For awakening, we will be going with source and grabbing this double damage amplification awakening. This is going to be the biggest increase for us for bosses and elites, which is what we want. Lightning Arrow already does a fantastic job of clearing enemies, so we want the awakening that's going to give us the most damage, and that is source. For our attack enhance, we will be using marksman, as both of our skills, Lightning Arrow and Thorn Explosion, have the projectile tag, so we will get a projectile damage amplification to both, and we'll get a pierce count to our Lightning Arrow on top of hit rate increase. For our defense enhance, we will be going with tenacious regeneration, since we have plenty of strength from our Thorn Explosion. This is going to provide us with an instant recovery of a portion of our maximum HP and then provide a nice HP regeneration per second. This is a nice emergency button and it acts a lot like a second potion. Then for movement abilities, we are going to be using roll, and I'm also going to be using trick shot to have a second movement just to help get around the map. Having two of these just helps you get around much quicker. Then for our seal, we will be going with seal of critical chance if we are not crit capped or close to crit capped. If you are crit or near crit cap, then you should be going for the seal of condensed element, as it will give you more damage. Finally, we are going to be using illusion arrow. Illusion arrow is going to automatically fire arrows as we attack with projectiles. So as we're attacking, you'll see an arrow will appear and attack the enemy automatically for us. And the reason we want illusion arrow is because we will be using it to extract energy. Okay, so let me explain how this works. Illusion arrow is going to automatically attack upon reaching a certain amount of stacks. So for every 5 attacks, you are going to be shooting these automatic illusion arrows. And we are going to be using extract energy to have a chance to gain energy that matches our main element on hit. So we can go for any one of these. The most common that people go for in this kind of a build is the fire element. Fire element is going to give us an additional 30% per stack. And the way that we get the fire element is by converting our illusion arrow fire damage. If you want to build up any of these other elements here, if you want to build up any of these other energies here, then you would just convert to that specific energy. So if you want to decrease element damage taken for additional element damage defense, you could take this convert fire damage off and put convert cold damage on instead. All right, so let's see how this looks like in practice. As we start attacking, you'll see these little projectiles start shooting out. That is the illusion arrow. And since we have a chance to build up our energy, you see down here, the fire energy has built up to 5. And remember, I said that by default, you can get a maximum of 5 energies unless you do something to raise the fixed max energy. Again, check the tutorial on energies if you want to learn more about that. And the link to that video is going to be in the description. Moving on to our links. The first 2 links we have are going to be used for farming. The first one's going to be chain, and the second one is going to be split projectile. Now, the reason we use chain and split projectile is because when we attack large packs of mobs, split projectile is going to split a projectile and potentially hit enemies behind the enemy that it initially hit. The first projectile that hit the front enemy is going to start chaining, but the split projectiles will also start chaining, so you will essentially hit the same enemy multiple times. And what it's going to look like is something like this. It's kind of hard to see, but as we hit this mob, we have projectiles splitting off. So the first arrow is going to be chaining around to all the mobs near it. Then the split projectile is going to be chaining around to all the mobs near it too. And it just makes mowing through large packs of mobs so fast. So combining these 2 runes is absolutely insane. The only time I would take these 2 off is if you want to get maximum damage. Then take these off and put some damage runes on instead. But for me, I would leave these 2 runes on all the time. We're also going to be using element damage amplification to get a boost in our element damage amp. And then the next rune we're going to use is going to be quick attack to increase our attack speed significantly. But bear in mind that in this build, since we're building up lightning energies with this and we get additional attack speed per lightning energy, reaching our attack speed cap of 5 attacks per second is going to be much easier. At a certain point, you might not have to use quick attack. You might be able to take it off completely. And in that case, what I would do is I would take off quick attack and I would use the confidence rune. So the confidence rune works like this. You will get a lot of additional damage and attack speed at 80% or more HP. So we get plenty here, a lot of damage here. And then as we move up to the legendary level, we're going to get even more damage amplification, and attack speed as well. So confidence is a really nice rune, especially for farming. Most of the time, you won't be dipping below 80%. So I think confidence is the rune to run. But if you don't want to have to rely on being above 80% health, then use quick attack, but definitely drop this as soon as you hit attack speed cap. Finally, we are going to be using lightning penetration, but that is only if you pick the awakening Verity. If you picked origin instead, you will have to use something else instead of lightning penetration, because origin takes away the ability to put the lightning penetration link rune on. So if you do go with origin, then some good options are find weakness. Find weakness is really nice if you're not crit capped. This is going to add a ton of damage. Otherwise, I think additional lightning damage actually adds quite a bit of damage for this build. One of the things about lightning arrow is that the flat damage is quite low. So additional lightning damage primary purpose is to build up the flat damage. And this rune actually has quite a bit of impact. Slaughter is also good if you don't have a whole lot of crit damage, provided you have high crit rate, but starts to fall off once you start stacking a whole lot of extra crit damage. Crit damage doesn't have as much impact once you reach higher levels. And then of course there's Mana Storm you can always use. It will make your lightning arrow cost a lot of mana. So if you can use it, go for it, but don't feel like you have to. We will then be activating to Thorn Explosion. For Thorn Explosion, you're going to want to use Strike to get big strike damage amplification. It has this attack speed dampening, but don't worry about this. This does not matter. And we are attacking with Lightning Arrow. This does not matter. We will also be converting to lightning damage so that we share the same element with Lightning Arrow, gaining any benefit from lightning damage increases that we get. We're also going to use Mana Storm. This does increase the cost of mana by a good bit, but Thorn Explosion has the nice benefit of being one of the lowest mana cost skills in the game. So it will actually be quite easy to maintain even with Mana Storm on. And then for your final rune, again, if you're not crit capped, Find Weakness is a really good option. But once you get to higher crit rates, like 85 or so, I think Lightning Penetration just starts to become the better rune and the one I would use. And for farming, you're going to want to use the Area of Effect rune to make your Thorn Explosion larger. And if you want maximum amounts of damage, you're going to use the concentrated area damage rune to get a big damage amplification boost with the downside of area of effect dampening. But for the extra damage, it is well worth it. For the Zodiac stats we're going to use here, you need enough dexterity to run your lightning arrow, enough strength to run your Thorn Explosion, and if you can get enough intelligence to bring your intelligence up to 200. And the reason we're going to do that is because it will allow us to get some of these Zodiac traits here. Like this one, for example, requires 200 intelligence and dexterity, but it gets us 30% projectile damage. But this one right here is the big one, 40% damage if strength, dex, and intelligence are 200 or more. So having at least 200 stats in strength, dex, and intelligence is going to allow us to pick up all three of these big damage nodes here. So that's why you should do it. Now, getting all those stats can be quite difficult. So if you are struggling to get all the stats you need for those, then don't worry about picking up intelligence at all. You won't need it. You might want to throw some points in just to get your mana up, but don't worry too much about getting intelligence to 200 if it's an issue. All right, I'm going to go ahead and walk through the Zodiac traits I'm using. You don't have to use these exactly as I am. Use this more or less as a guide. So I'm taking these first 5 points right here, focus on damage upon attack and attack speed in this build. I'm then taking these points here, focusing on armor until we get our armor up close to or above cap. Tree 3, we are going to be picking up this attack speed node here. I'm also picking these first 3 points right here for mana potion effectiveness. Then I'm also going to be picking up these 5 points here in Prel. Again, focus on armor, and then pick the resistance you need the most. I'm taking these first 3 points in here to get this 1% damage taken decrease. And then I take these first 3 points here to get this attack speed node. Moving on, we are going to take all of these points right here to get this attack speed and this attack crit damage. Again, in Maggot here, we are taking the 40% damage node, 30% area, and 30% projectile. Take these two in intelligence so that you don't have to spend more points than you need to. Also, the area damage is only going to affect Thorn Explosion, but Thorn Explosion does far more damage than Lightning Arrow in this build, so this one is worth it to pick up. In Scent, these are the points that I'm taking. We're going to be picking up all these points in Plague since bows are considered two-handed weapons. Also pick up these 5 points in Farmer for HP. And then I take these 5 points in Hunter to get 1.5% damage amplification. In Tree 9, I'm going to Mold, and I'm taking these top 5 points right here. This is going to give us 1 fixed max lightning energy. Remember that we gain lightning energies from using Lightning Arrow. Right now, by default, we have a max fixed lightning energy of 5. This will allow us to get up to 6 lightning energies. This is big for us because it's going to give us that additional damage amplification for Lightning Arrow and the attack speed. And then my last 3 points I'm just throwing right here to get some lightning penetration and some additional health points. Now for our specialization, we are going to be going in Brilliance. And I know this is like the caster tree, but this is the tree that is going to give you the most damage in this build. We are going to be picking up Acceleration to get attack speed and movement speed boost. We'll also be getting Overpower for the flat damage and the element penetration. We'll pick up this strike damage amplification, and mana tends to be an issue in this build, so we will be picking up Convert Mana. Now, Basically, convert mana is going to take some of our health and convert it into mana every so often. If you do take convert mana, try and get some HP absorb to offset this. If you don't have HP absorb, I don't recommend using convert mana. I would probably drop these 2 points and grab these 2 right here, because this is going to give us nice resource cost dampening, and then just try and do what you can to get some mana efficiency in your build. Some other places you can get some mana would be like in tree 7, you have these 5 points here. You could also put like a couple extra points in here for more mana potion effectiveness. For the second specialization, we will go down and get knowledge. We'll get this cast speed and damage upon spell. Cast speed doesn't help us out at all, and damage on spell is only going to help out our Thorn Explosion, but that's okay. Really what we're trying to get here is this 15% element damage amplification. This node is really big, so we pick that up. We pick up sharpness, and then right here, if you want more damage for your Thorn Explosion, you could grab this node, or you could put this into area of effect to make Thorn Explosion larger. It's your choice. Finally, we will be finishing things off in Pirate. We're going to take these nodes over here to get this element damage amplification. We will also be grabbing this damage amplification against debuffed enemies. Shock is considered a debuff, and since we can shock in this build, we will get this damage amplification. We're then going to move upwards and get this damage amp against crowd-controlled enemies, and grab this additional cold damage equal to 10% of damage on every hit. The additional damage we deal here is going to be applied as cold. So that is going to give us a chance to freeze. And since we can also bind in this build, since we are a lightning base, that is going to help us get this damage amplification against crowd controlled enemies more consistently. Now for gear information and stats, charm stats and blessings, and avatar information, all of that is going to be down in the description of the video. So check that out for your reference. But that is the Thorn Storm Arrow build. I absolutely love this one. I'm actually playing this build right now in Origin for my seasonal character, and I'm having a blast. But what do you guys think? Is there anything we can do to improve it? Let me know in the comments. Also, if there's anything you're confused about still, drop that in the comments as well, and I'll get back to you. But if you've enjoyed the video, do me a solid and give me a like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot, but I've got to get back to the grind, so I'll catch you guys later.